Welcome to Cyber Life. I'm Gina Smith.
And I'm Chris Eddy. An estimated 25 million Americans, about 1/10 of the U.S., have a fear of flying.
That's true. You know, some 20% of airline passengers have to depend on alcohol or even sedatives to get through a flight.
Hey, I prefer those honey-roasted peanuts.
Well, some people are starting to turn to computer technology to conquer their fears.
For an example of how the friendly skies are actually terrifying for many folks, ask Kevin Hamilton.
This is where I'm most nervous on a plane flight, taxiing just before takeoff.
Kevin may feel like he's sitting in a plane, but he's actually in a Georgia Tech lab, undergoing virtual reality exposure therapy. Patients wear a head-mounted display used to immerse the subject into a 3D virtual simulation of a plane trip.
There's no choice of aisle or window seat. It's always window over and over to expose patients to the condition that causes fear, so they can gradually become comfortable with this scenario.
That's the sound I always hate to hear.
Most people who are scared of flying have one particular part of the flight that scares them more than other parts. For example, takeoff or landing. And in a real flight, that only happens once. In a virtual flight, we can make it happen as many times as we need to.
And this is an application of VR that can be done now with today's technology. Providing VR can live up to some of its hype with powerful machines like those from Silicon Graphics.
We can really make things happen and get things done in the field. We can help move applications out of the lab and into the street.
I think it'll make some difference in the way I experience the plane. If nothing else, I think I can kind of get a little bit desensitized to some of the, the sights and sounds on the plane.
Other patients agree, saying they'd be more willing to fly virtually so that in time they too can finally experience the real friendly skies.
Live, local, late breaking. Channel 7 News starts now.
Inspiring kids to stay in school and pursue college can be tough, but here's a new approach: cartoons. Education and business leaders, including the Disney Corporation, have teamed up to use animation for motivation. Channel 7's Greg Goudelet explains from the South Bay.
Computerized animation is sweeping the country, from TV and movies to medicine and even manufacturing. The demand is on for people who know how computer animation works.
You should customize this and shade that line black.
Students at Computer Animation Magnet School, Mount Pleasant High, are doing just that. A leg up into a fast-growing job market. And a partnership made up of educators, Silicon Graphics, and Walt Disney Animation just announced they're going to help. The whole idea is to provide a link between the classroom and the workplace. Business and educators working together to influence young minds. Students who have been limited to hand-drawn work will now be able to create their art on computer screens. For students like Terry Ming, a dream come true.
I've always been just a traditional artist who do a lot of portraits and stuff. And when this animation magnet opened, I was just so excited. So I was hoping this opens another door for me.
And this animation and multimedia career is the one that many, many students are going to want because of the attractiveness of going right into the workforce with those skills.
To help young people be very, very productive and to show them that they can take their art and their energy, be constructive.
Many feel opportunities like this will give students the push they need to finish school, go to college, and fill high-demand jobs that are opening now. In San Jose, Greg Goudelet, Channel 7 News.
Good morning and welcome to Interact America. I'm Joe Washington. More than 20 years ago, we watched in amazement as Neil Armstrong took those first steps on the moon. Today, with the help of special computers, you and I can not only travel to the moon, but anywhere we dream of with the power of virtual reality. On today's show, we're going to take a good look at this growing technology. Later, we'll also show you how technology is changing the way we protect ourselves. And although telecommuting has been the corporate buzzword of the 90s, the author of a new book says the virtual workplace may not be all it's cracked up to be. But first, virtual reality in the doctor's office. It may seem unbelievable, but scientists say one day we'll be able to walk into our doctor's office, put on a virtual reality helmet, and be treated for everything from eating disorders and motion sickness to autism. Michael Wachalonis reports on the latest virtual reality breakthrough.
Those are my 2 fake legs, and there's the tray.
This is not a game.
Yeah, this is the part I hate.
And it's not fun.
Right now we're taxiing, and I'm just looking out the window and watching the scenery go by, waiting for that nice throttle up noise. That one. That's the sound I always hate to hear.
Kevin Hamilton is trying to overcome a fear he shares with an estimated 25 million other Americans.
Avoid airplanes if I can. When I get nervous on a plane flight, my heart rate goes up, I get really restless, I don't like sitting down in the seat, you know. I can't sit down and read a book or, you know, listen to music. I like to get up and kind of walk around and basically just drive the stewardesses nuts. I'm a complete mess.
Phobias, such as the fear of flying, are usually treated with exposure therapy, where the patient confronts their fear either through their imagination or real-life experiences, also known as in vivo.
For example, a lot of people are scared of driving and scared of driving on the interstates, so we drive a lot around Spaghetti Junction and the interstates. Basically whatever people are scared of. For virtual reality exposure therapy, it is really very analogous to regular exposure therapy. What we do, we've created the virtual environments that would be very similar to the real environments that we'd need to take people in that would scare them.
For some, the fear can be intense. Studies indicate that of those who are afraid to fly, 20% manage to do so by medicating themselves with alcohol or sedatives. Researchers at Georgia Tech have developed virtual reality software for use in therapy. One of the greatest advantages of VR, say therapists, are the controlled conditions.
It's safer. You know, if I have to take people out driving and on planes and things like that, I much prefer to do it in the safety of my office than on the wild interstates of Atlanta. And actually, you know, had the experience a few months ago of somebody that I thought was ready to go driving. She had a fear of driving on the interstates. We got on the interstate, she slammed on the brakes, started screaming, and I'm thinking, I wish we could be doing this in virtual reality.
This is quite a ride. This thing really wobbles as you go.
VR therapy has also shown promise in the treatment of acrophobia, the fear of heights.
But it will stop, right?
This virtual environment is modeled after the lobby of a downtown Atlanta hotel. Researchers are the first to say that this virtual elevator will never be mistaken for the real thing, because it doesn't have to.
One of the goals of our project was not to build environments that were completely realistic, but to understand what are the details that are important for doing therapy. So there may be lots of details for height situations that are not important to the therapy, but there's some that are, such as having an edge that the patient can approach and lean over. So we were careful in our environments to build things that actually had an edge and maybe a rail you could grab to actually simulate a real environment and the things that were scary.
I'm really up here.
As with most treatments, there can be side effects. Patients using VR headgear have experienced vomiting, headaches, and vertigo.
There are some problems. There's a correlation that we have noticed. We don't have clinical evidence to back this up, but from our experience we've noticed if you're the kind of person who gets sick, car sick, riding in the back seat of a car, then you might get simulator sickness from having on a head-mounted display. And what we do is when we have someone in therapy, we actually ask them every 5 minutes, how do you feel? If you feel nauseous, we stop. We let them take off the head-mounted display. We were careful of the temperature of the room. We have a glass of water. So, I think the most important thing is that you got to ask the patient or the user, how do you feel? What's useful? You got to make suggestions. And then after that, it seems to work okay.
Any long-term side effects remain to be seen, but the short term has shown positive results.
Most of our people that have been through the virtual reality exposure have appreciated the experience. That we found that they did get anxious in the situation, their anxiety came down, and then what was really neat is that most of them started exposing themselves to real life feared situations without us even asking them to.
I think it'll make some difference in the way I experience the plane. If nothing else, I think I can kind of get a little bit desensitized to some of the sights and sounds on the plane, and it won't bother me as much.
The Georgia Tech team is hoping to have the VR Therapy Fear of Flying software commercially available by early 1997.
VR therapy is not only being used to treat patients with neurological disorders and phobias, but one professor at MIT built a VR room designed to show the user what it's like to experience balance and vision problems. Why? To teach others how to empathize with people who have brain damage. Coming up, remote-itis and cyber ghetto. She calls them the diseases of the virtual workplace, and if you're a telecommuter, you could be infected. Dr. Jacqueline Costner explains it all next.